Good morning, everybody. It is 9:01 a.m. We're calling this Board of Directors meeting for the Animal Service Center of the Mesilla Valley to order. I want to make sure that I guess we'll do a roll call and determine the quorum. Mr. Dollahan?
Sure. Jeannie Quintero from the county.
Present.
Myself is present. David Dollahan, City of Las Cruces. Councilor Abeyta Stuvey.
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Present.
You have quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to changes to the agenda. What we're discussing previously is that due to where we're at our previous commitments, we would like to move action items section 5A, B, and C ahead of reports and presentations. So we will go minutes, action items, and then reports and presentations. So if there's no objections, I'll entertain a motion to amend the agenda and approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that amendment to the agenda to do minutes, then action items, then reports.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Dollahan, seconded by Councilor Abeyta Stuvey. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'll call the roll. Jeannie Quintero.
Yes.
Myself, I vote aye. David Dollahan. Councilor Abeyta Stuvey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
You have the motion carried to amend the agenda.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We'll move on to minutes for the last board meeting held on July 23rd, 2020. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Seconded
by David Dollahan.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve the minutes by Councilor Abeyta Stuvey, seconded by Mr. David Dollahan. Is there any discussion from the board members? Doesn't look like any. So Mr. Dollahan, will you call the roll?
Board member Quintero.
Yes.
David Dollahan votes yes. Councilor Abeyta Stuvey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes. Okay, we have the minutes from the last meeting are approved. Moving on, as amended, the action items. Action item 5A, resolution 2020-17, resolution to accept $6,750 grant from the Humane Society of the U.S. and amend the fiscal year 21 budget accordingly. Mr. Thacker.
Hi, good morning, board.
Mr. Chairman, may I interrupt real quick? I just admitted board member Ellens into the committee. And it's 9:04 a.m.
Excellent. Okay, then before you get started, Mr. Thacker, Commissioner Ellens, we've amended the agenda. We are doing action items ahead of reports and presentations, and we are currently on item 5A, which Mr. Thacker was getting ready to start or introduce. Okay, thank you, Mr. Thacker. Go ahead.
Mr. Dollahan, I do not have screen sharing privileges. Would you be able to turn that on, please? And you're on mute.
Dominic, are you there? Because I don't have that ability.
And Mr. Dollahan, I also see that Mayor Pro Tem Gandara is also on the line as well.
Yeah, who needs to be unmuted?
It's not unmuted. Clint needs to be able to share his screen.
Because I have it set up so everybody's able to share their screen.
There we go. Now it came up. Thank you. All right, everybody see the resolution 2020-17?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So this resolution 2020-17 is to accept the $6,750 Humane Society of the United States, the HSUS Spay Together grant for the Animal Service Center in Mississippi Valley, and to adjust the adopted fiscal year 2021 budget. This will allowing the grant for a total adjustment of $6,750. This grant is a special grant that only pertains to the support and or spaying of the spay and neutering of animals. So we would not be able to use it on anything but support of spay and neuter. And what that means is, like, if we need to buy surgical equipment, clamps, blades, that type of thing, that's for the support of. And also is reimbursing us money for money that we're doing, these at a discounted rate. So helps offset that expense. The Exhibit A shows here $6,750 will be put into the revenues, and then in the expenses shows up under the Animal Service Center, the city, $6,750. I'll go for any questions.
Okay, board members, any questions? I don't hear or see any hands raised, so I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-17.
Move to approve. Abeta Stuvey.
Second, Gandara.
Thank you. We have the motion has been motioned by Councilor Abeta Stuvey, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. If there's no further discussion, Mr. Dallahan, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilor Gondara,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellens,
Yes.
Councilor Abeta Stuvey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
You have approval 4-0.
Thank you, sir. Okay, moving on. Action item 5B, Resolution 2020-18 to amend the fiscal year 21 budget to reflect additional funding from the city of Las Cruces.
Thank you, Vice Chair. This one is Resolution 2020-18. This is to approve an increase in city contribution for the adopted Ascmv budget fiscal year 2021. As you know, we went to the board last board meeting requesting a resolution that the city would do this extra funding. We presented, and also the budget department for the city also budgeted or presented on our behalf to the city council for this $520,255. The city did approve that in their in their city council meeting, and the money was transferred over. So this money, if you remember, is going towards our medical program, our kennel maintenance program department, also some money for merit increases for the staff, and also for spay and neutering. So we are very ecstatic and happy that the city was able to do this, because without this extra funding, we would not be able to meet our financial obligations. So the Exhibit A for this is showing down at the bottom the operating transfers in $520,255, and also the expenditures showing as $520,255. I'll open for any questions.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Please, Mr. Dallahan, go ahead.
Because I don't have, as the co-host of the meeting, I don't have the ability to raise my hand, so I just have to interrupt. Sorry.
Sure. No worries.
In reviewing the previous resolution that the board adopted when they made the request, I felt like the wording was not clear. The city's budget office had already transferred the money based on the request, but the wording on the previous resolution had the words request in it, and I felt like for transparency's sake, it would be better for us during the budget year to approve this resolution to recognize the fact that the city honored our request, they transferred the money, and now we're just attributing it to our budget. So this is a minor housekeeping issue. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Mr. Dallahan. Board members, is there any other questions or discussion? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve Resolution 2020-18?
So moved.
So moved.
Very good. Well, we got moved by Councilor Beta Stuvik. Commissioner Allens, would you care to make that a second?
Second.
Very good. So now it's been seconded by Commissioner Allens. Mr. Dollahan, please call the roll.
All right. Councilor Gondara,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellens,
Yes.
Councilor Abeta Stuve,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes.
You have approval 4-0.
Thank you, Mr. Dollahan. Very good. We're on the last action item now here, 5A, Resolution 2020-19, to accept a media campaign proposal from Wilson Brinkley Advertising and authorize the executive director to negotiate and approve the said contract with Wilson Brinkley. Mr. Thacker.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Yes, this is resolution number 2020-19. We've worked quite closely and really well with Wilson Brinkley Marketing. The Ascmv, we need a special type of advertising that focuses on the animal-human bond, and they do a very good job of presenting that to the public. I have Jessica, the marketing person that we work with, that works there. She's on the line, and she's going to be giving us a short presentation, but I wanted first to show you the resolution. So today you're going to be approving the plan that we have, and then also at the same time giving me the authority to be able to, when we negotiate and set a contract in place, that I have the approval to, or the okay to sign that on behalf of the board and the center, so we don't have to come back next month and delay this whole thing for one more month. So without further ado, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll turn the time over to Jessica for that.
Good morning. Let me go to full screen mode real fast. Wait, did I share my screen? Sorry, I'm really bad at this. Let me share my screen. I got ahead of myself. Okay, so like Mr. Thacker said, we've worked with the Ascmv for about, it's been probably about 6 years, 5 years now. A little bit about Wilson Brinkley. We were originally established in 1989, so we've been around, a long time. We are the largest full service agency in Southern New Mexico. And what that means is just we do all our creative in-house, we do all of our media buying in-house, we do direct mail in-house. We keep it local. That way we can just provide the best service without having to have a ton of middlemen. We have a proven record of servicing local, regional, and national clients. So we've worked with, a lot of local clients, a few national, and a ton of regional clients across all. Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but all I see is a black screen.
Okay. I'm sharing.
Your presentation was up there. Does anybody else have a presentation, or is it just black?
No, it's black.
It's black. I see a little well, I saw like a little watch, almost like a cursor or something on the top left hand side.
Jessica, it changed when you went to full screen, so you're back now.
Back now. Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to get back to the original slide. So our services that we provide include media buying, graphic design, digital services, so web design, digital placement for Google AdWords, Facebook, social media. We do broadcasts like radio, TV. We'll do outdoor advertising. We also handle public relations, market research, and we do direct mail and printing in-house as well. Just a little bit about, our history with Ascmv. We've been working with them since 2016. Originally, I was brought on when Dr. Beth was still here and we were working on the euthanasia rate because it was extremely high and our live release rate was not as high as it could have been. So in the past, we've done digital ads. We designed the new logo. We've done radio, outdoor. We designed the website, and we've also done some direct mail campaigns. The animal shelter is really, one of those things that's close to my interests. Like, I'm an animal person. I have dogs, and So we've been able to provide value-added services of around $9,875, and that's just me volunteering my time to make website changes or donating stuff for the drive-through rabies clinics. We also negotiate with all the media to make sure you guys are getting, the most bang for your buck. We try to get a 1-for-1 match with all our radio spots. So you guys are really getting, a benefit when working with an agency. This is just a past outdoor campaign that we did when we were first brought on. Like I said, it's when, the euthanasia rate was really high. People were not spaying and neutering. The intake rate was really high. It was super aggressive, but we were trying to get people's attention. We've really geared away from that. We've gone a lot softer, and it is more about that animal-human interaction now and trying to make people understand why they need to spay and neuter, for the benefit of their pets and benefit of our community. And then we've also done, direct mail campaigns to let the public know, like to license a microchip when we were providing the spay and neuter services. These were really effective. We mailed them to a ton of addresses. And I mean, we got comments all the time about people getting these ones. So moving on to the media plan, it's fairly simple. We were working with the budget provided by Mr. Thacker. You're going to be on 5 English stations and 1 Spanish station just to get you a good mix and a good reach. It goes from September through May. The first campaign portion will be September through December, and it will we're focusing on like a spay and neuter and overall, human animal relationship. And then in January is when we will switch to, I believe we were going to do the Leave the Litter Alone campaign to educate people about the cats in our community and TNR, and if there is a cat colony, to leave it alone type of situation. It does include Facebook newsfeed ads to supplement the radio. And then it also has some website maintenance. We've been doing a lot of web maintenance lately, just with a lot of the things that are changing. And so we also included that line item. This is all of the costs involved. And we will also be donating for the drive-through clinic. We will be donating a radio spot and any graphic design or stuff like that needs to be done for that. And that's all I have if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mullen. Board members, any questions or discussion? I see Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so much, Jessica. I always have appreciated your compassion, passion, and interest in our animals and all the in-kind, as you call it, value added that you've given the Animal Services Center throughout the years. So I'm grateful. A big thank you to you all. I wanted to ask, when you talk about radio ads, who are the radio stations that you'll be working with?
So we base it off of, like, we have research data that backs up everything. So we do the top stations. So K-Great, KHQT, which is Hot 103, KMVR Magic 105, KBLC, which is 101 Gold, and KXBZ, which is Zia Country. And then the Spanish station is the local station through Bravo Mike.
Okay. And would the social media through Facebook be both in English and Spanish?
We don't usually do both we don't usually do English and Spanish. The budget figure that we have, we usually do pretty well on the Facebook. I mean, it's something that people are interested in, so we usually perform pretty well with lower budgets just because people want to share it and they want to share the information. I have no problem doing a Spanish version of the ad. And then we can target, it is going to be a smaller target demographic because I have run Spanish ads in the past in our area. And the people who list themselves on Facebook as speaking only Spanish is much smaller. But we can definitely do that. I have no problem including that.
Okay, that would be great. I think that would be beneficial. And in terms of the type of the focus, can you go over that a little bit again? I'm more interested in the cat colonies, and frankly, I think pet responsibility, right? Owner responsibility is almost essential, but I'm also really concerned about the puppy litters that we have, both in dogs and cats. So can you maybe focus a little bit about what that would look like?
And that's something that we've just talked about briefly. We haven't solidified our message at all. It was just mentioned, the fall, that we would try to do more about spay and neuters, especially, with people getting puppies and kittens and stuff for Christmas and that kind of thing. And then in the spring, we do have an influx of the cats because they're breeding more, the strays. So that was just something that we talked about. It's something that, I would discuss with Mr. Thacker more and see, obviously he knows more about what specifically is happening and what we need to address. But it's always something that, if we do need to continue the spay neuter message into the spring, we can always keep the Facebook ad. It's just harder with the radio since it's such a shorter time period. We need to really focus on our main message. But of course, I'm open to, whatever input about that. But that's not solidified yet.
Okay, thank you. I think really as a general, Clint, I'll look to you. Obviously, you're the expert. You're seeing what. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
We can hear you.
I was getting some feedback. You're seeing what's coming in, sort of the issues, kind of thing. I just know that over the course of the time that I've been with the Animal Services Board, those have been issues, especially around cat colonies and or feeding, cats and, not understanding trap, neuter, release, those things as well. So I love for those messages to be really clear for people. Jessica, lastly, are you going to do the board, the billboards, or is that not a part of that?
No, that was just a past example of what we've done for you guys. The budget does not allow for outdoor.
Right. And so because I have poor eyesight and I'm not wearing my eyeglasses, is the total $32,000?
Yes, with tax. It's $32,004.94.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm good with Clint. Obviously getting feedback from the board in terms of what we would like to see in terms of advertising, but giving him the authority to sign off on that immediately, so we can move on that. Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I see Councilor Beta Stuve has her hand up.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez, and thank you, Jessica. I was wondering if you said you do a lot of kind of pro bono type stuff here. Are you also, do you catalog that sort of value as well to be able to share?
I honestly, for the most part, I know what I've done. And I did some quick math on what we've done over the years and things like that. We don't usually include it into the plan just because it's not something that we necessarily know about. Like sometimes Mr. Thacker will email me asking me for, some kind of graphic or something. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Cool. And then I just, we work on it and I send it to him. So it's not something that I've put a pencil to as far as how much it costs. It's definitely something I could look back and get a number for. As far as like the radio, that number includes the match. We've already negotiated that on your behalf. So it just, we just don't put a line item on it.
Thank you. And thank you, for that extra work that you do with us. My other question, and this goes back to Mayor Pro Tem Gondra's ads. I know like at Christmas time, when people are getting, I'm going to say present puppies, but having that kind of message of, long-term family members that these need to be. I don't know if that's something that you guys have done in the past, but just having that sort of holiday type message of just making sure that animals are a responsibility and you have to look towards that long-term care plan.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something that we try to include as far as like pushing it. It's a forever commitment, especially with like our direct mail campaign that we did. I really like that one because it's like, I'm a good boy, be a good owner. Like, just really striving to tell people like, this is a really long-term commitment. You have responsibilities to them. I'm definitely an advocate of that. I mean, like I said, I've had dogs my whole life. And so I understand, it's not just a one-time thing.
Well, thank you very much. And those are all the questions I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead, then,
I have
Commissioner. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Do you do any PSAs on television?
We do not. Just because the video work, I mean, that's hard to get donated. We would definitely, I mean, if we had the video available, that'd be something that we could definitely include. But video is, you know, pretty expensive, so it's hard. And then TV stations too. I mean, a lot of the time it depends what they're willing to donate. And so that's just not something that we've done yet.
Okay, thank you.
I think to clarify, Commissioner, is that they do it. The Wilson Binkley does it. It's just the ASCMV media plan has not had funds to support that as far. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yes, I would say that's correct. Especially with just kind of what our goals were in the past and what our goals are now. I mean, the budget has changed a lot, but we're really trying to spend the money as efficiently as possible. So, you know, radio is a really big driver in our area. We've done radio spots in the past where, you know, we were kind of trying to focus on children because we're trying to change how they grew up and how they think about animals. And I mean, we had multiple people who have kids throughout the office whose kids memorized the radio spots because they were hearing them, they were listening to them. And so I was just like, it's a sample of one, but it was just something that I thought was really interesting. So obviously, like we're doing what we need to be doing as far as trying to, you know, educate the people through the radio.
I've got a couple questions myself. And Ms. Mullen, I guess one of the things that, and I guess this goes also along with what Mayor Pro Tem Gondara had asked in terms of the type of media. There's not going to be any print ads associated with this contract, or at least that's not what's part of the plan?
Not part of this plan at this time. Like I said, with the funds available, it makes more sense to do, you know, the mix that we have with radio and social media because you're going to get a broader reach of people with radio. Whereas print, depending on what publication you're in, it can be very expensive, and then your cost per thousand is higher than it would be with radio. So that's why we chose radio over print. We do place print. I think we've placed print in the past for ASCMV. It's just depending on, you know, when we're trying to spend the money as efficiently as possible to get the biggest reach we can, we try to allocate the, you know, where we think it's going to be, where the numbers say that the people are going to be.
Okay, and I guess along with that, is there, based off of your all's experience, I mean, I know we've obviously transitioned a lot more to social media and those types of platforms. Is there really any bang, you know, a bang for the buck to go with an actual print type of advertisement campaign at all?
I think print does have a place. I mean, it always does. What we're trying to do is, you know, we're kind of going towards a younger demographic, trying to, you know, reach children as well as young adults and, you know, the people who might not necessarily think about pet responsibility in a certain way. Your newspaper readers are always going to be a little bit older. They're more affluent of individuals. And like I said, it's just, we use print. I have clients that are in print right now. It's not something that we're against. Just for this plan, this is what made the most sense for us.
Okay. No, and I'm appreciative of the fact that you're including the Spanish stations as well, just so that way we're reaching across all of our community here. And one last question for Mr. Thacker. What is this, I guess when this contract would be signed, where would it come out of our, what part of the budget? I mean, this wouldn't be temp agency services. Would this be classified under other, or do you know?
It would come out of the services.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I'm good. Thank you, Ms. Mullen. Thank you, Mr. Thacker. Is there any other questions or discussion? Okay, I see that Mr. Dullahan left. So if there's no, well, let me start with getting a motion and to approve Resolution 2020-19 for the media campaign proposal of Wilson Brinkley and providing the executive director the power to negotiate and approve the contract.
So moved.
Second by Beta Stuvey.
Very good. It's moved by Commissioner Allens, seconded by Councilor Beta Stuvey. Like I said, as I was getting ready to start saying, I saw that Mr. Dollahan left. If there's no objections, I can call the roll. So,
Vice Chair, he asked me to do the roll call, but you are more than welcome to do it.
by all means, Mr. Thacker. I was if he's asking to do it, that'll be perfect.
All right, I'll see if I can stumble through it. Councilor Gondola,
Yes.
Commissioner Allens,
Yes.
Board Member Betastuve,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
It carries.
Very good. Thank you, sir. All right. Now we're going on to reports and presentations. All right. Is Miss? I thought I saw Miss Gilbert there with you, Mr. Thacker.
She is here with me, yes. However, I do not have her presentation up and ready, so give me just a moment.
Okay.
To get in there and grab it. It's buried deep in the archives.
Mm-hmm.
Clint, can you find it?
Here we go.
You got it?
Yeah. All right, I turn it over to Jean for our presentation.
Those are the reports, like our plant. That isn't the PowerPoint.
That's not the presentation,
No,
it's just
that
the
isn't
reports.
That's the board packet.
All right, so I don't have it.
Okay.
One moment, we're going to go back.
Go back for 2 presentations. There we go.
That's it, yeah. And then, Clint, how do I turn the pages? Or will someone else do it, or how does that work?
Okay, can you all see the presentation?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Please proceed.
Want me just slide over to this chair, Clint?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, I think you have to enable editing before you go into a slideshow.
There you go. Now you have it full page?
Yes, sir.
All right, great.
Thank you, Clint. Good morning, board, and thank you. I want to thank Clint and Bernice and Michelle and the staff here for letting me present the PowerPoint from here, because my capability is with an iPhone and iPad, and I think because of city security is the reason I've had issues being able to use that. So I want to thank the Animal Services Center, and I also want to thank all of you for allowing the community report to be earlier in the presentations this time. Here is a listing of the organizations that will be represented in this month's report, and groups that aren't listed will be in next month's report. And this is a short list of the work that the coalition's been doing for July and August, supporting local groups. Rick Hahn represented the coalition at the last task force meeting, and he continues to work on drafting a handbook for volunteers. And we're both working on updating the animal resource guide doing the organization section of that. The majority of our time seems to be spent on online using social media, helping individual animals and supporting area groups. A primary role that we've had is promoting the animal shelter. And that is their life-saving work and what the volunteers for Ascmv do. And this includes posting the Ascmv's Pet of the Week and frequent posting of the shelter stats and trying to get conversations going with people about, say, if there's a large number of impounds for the day. I know I've even written like, come on, Las Cruces, what can we do? And so I know the other day there were at least 12 unrestrained cats that came in. And so looking for solutions and trying to stimulate the public to help. And of course, there are a lot of great positive stories about animals that we share from the Ascmv's Facebook page. Two Hearts for a Paws, they're located in Radium Springs, and they have about 35 dogs in their rescue, and they advocate for dogs in need, like this dog pictured here, who was found as a stray. They held a vaccination clinic just recently with Dr. Carver in Radium Springs. I'm very happy to hear about that, with Radium Springs being an underserved area. And I just heard from Deb Peterson, who's one of the directors of Two Hearts, Four Paws, but she wasn't able to get the numbers yet from Dr. Carver on how many animals they vaccinated and how many they microchipped. But when I get that information, I will send it to all of you. Action programs for animals, maybe you're already aware of this, but they'll be moving into their new headquarters sometime this fall. In their new headquarters, they'll be moving from their Picacho location to what was the former Solano Veterinary Clinic. And this is really exciting news because it's an expansion and a real upgrade for them in facilities for their adoption center and for their other programs. And here you see pictures of APA's had really good support, have wonderful support from the community. And this summer, kids and families had lemonade stands, and over $200 was donated to APA from those sales. Here you see felines Aria and Fabio and Canine Penny, and they're just 3 of the 35 pets that were adopted through APA during the month of July. Their intake for July was 38 animals, with the majority of those animals being cats. There were 22 cats that they took in during the month of July. And these stats are provided in you board members' packets. Okay, Broken Promises Southwest. These are pictures, just show a few of many. Of course, they do much in the way of life saving for animals. And pictured on the left, you see a cat who's been TNR'd. And they, of course, do rescue, foster, and adoption services. Broken Promises operates the PetSmart cattery there as their adoption center. And Broken Promises reports 23 cats adopted year to date and 35 total animals TNR'd, cats TNR'd. Cats Meow, here are pictured some of the felines that were adopted during July, including all of Maisie's kittens, who are pictured left, and they're pictured at their adoption center. And then you see Milo in his home, pictured with one of his family members. Cats Meow adopted 126 felines January through July, and they're running a Clear the Shelter promotion like the Animal Services is doing and other animal organizations are doing, and they're offering reduced adoption fees. And I received their newsletter just yesterday. I don't have the numbers, but it's my understanding from reading it that sometimes, in some cases, with some of the cats that are, I'm sorry, kittens, more likely that are not old enough yet to be spayed or neutered, they are called back and spayed and neutered later. And in their newsletter, they referenced mobile clinics that they're holding. So that is also additional information I'm going to try to get for all of you to find out how many clinics they've held and how many cats they've spayed and neutered through those clinics. Cherish Canine, pictured here is mom dog Courtney in the center, and she gave birth mid-May to puppies under an abandoned building in Hatch. And then she was spotted several weeks later with all of her 6 puppies. And she was rescued, and of course they would have perished if they had not been rescued by Cherished Canines. And 2 of the 6 puppies have already been adopted. So the ones you're seeing pictured here are awaiting adoption. This story is noteworthy because Cherish Canines, with their wonderful organization of their team of fosters and supporters, they're truly remarkable for the large number of mom dogs and puppies that they've helped during the course of this year and in years past. And here is Cherished Canines pictured here again. They have over 100 dogs in their rescue program, including Karis pictured left with her foster family. On July 22nd, Karis was struck by a bus and left basically on the side of the road. And a Good Samaritan lifted her off the highway. And this dog has had 6 surgical procedures. And I just learned yesterday she's been on crate rest, I don't know how many weeks now, and she still has to be carried in a sling. Pictured next to Karis is Vaughn, and Vaughn is the dog smiling with his new mom and canine buddy. And this is just one of the many dogs that have been adopted by Cherish Canines during the month of July. The numbers that are reported in your packet for Cherish Canines are underrepresented. They are the numbers that have been publicly documented that I've been able to find going through their Facebook feed from January year to date. But I know they don't have everything posted. And Rick Hahn, who chair of the coalition, does foster work for Cherish Canine as a volunteer, and he will be trying to get those numbers from Carla Baker. And I know Carla reported her figures for last year, which was 128 animals they adopted and 343 they transported. So I know for sure the numbers that you have right now are not, they're just a partial picture. Doña County Humane Society reports that several animals helped during June and July by the organization's Animal Relief Fund. They reported several animals, and this includes little Daisy, pictured here on the left, who had a severe dental infection. In addition to, there are funds assisting low-income families with needed medical care for pets. They also offer their Pets for Seniors program and cover the adoption fees for shelter animals that are adopted by people who are 60 years of age or older. Doña County Humane Society also has their Rough to Ready, which is a pet retention program providing free behavior training for pets adopted here from the animal shelter. Doña County Humane Society has held virtual yappy hours and news they call pause podcasts during this time of COVID, and they've been doing that all, of course, virtually. They recently moved from their Picacho location to Main Street on the downtown mall. The Humane Society of Southern New Mexico provided a donation recently from their Cans for Critters fund as a chip-in towards care of cats in a local rescue group here in Las Cruces. Cans for Critters has raised over $10,300, helping more than 200 animals since the fund started 8 years ago. HSNM continues their humane education program, providing online stories for children and families at their website, and they've had 15 replies. So I think in your packet it says 12, but we've added 3 more replies during the course of when the report was submitted. Pictured is one of the delightful stories offered in the feline segment with the online stories. Through HSNM's Pet Helpline, 20 colony cats have been registered in Chaparral, and a dozen dogs and cats have been transported to the Anthony Veterinary Clinic for spay and neuter. And also more than 20 rattlesnakes have been removed from residences to their natural desert environment by Frank Bryce, who is a herpetologist and is also the president of the Humane Society. And this is the last slide. August is National Clear the Shelters Month, and the coalition encourages everyone to adopt a pet from the Animal Services Center, our municipal shelter, or from local animal rescue groups. Other ways to increase positive outcomes for animals are to provide a foster home for an animal, or to help with transports to rescue locations where animals stay temporarily until they are adopted. And please contact the coalition for other ways that you could volunteer and join in all of us in making a difference for the animals. Thank you very much for your attention, and do any of you have any questions?
Board members, any questions for or comments for Ms. Gilbert?
Yes, Vice Chair.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, first I have to show him. So this is Percy, and he is an Action for Animals member.
Wonderful.
He's about 2 years old, and he can sit on command, and he's learning how to fetch and do paws. So he's a very good companion, and so thank you very much for all of the work that our rescues do. He's also very attached to a boy there. So I had a quick question, actually, if you know about one of the animals, the little puppy that was hit by the bus. You know, there's always, we've had those heartbreaking stories about, you know, quality of life, pain management, and things when you have these very tragic, you know, accidents or you know, happen. So how do the shelters, and not the shelters, but how do the programs look at that with cost of care for some of these animals that are requiring these large things? And obviously, every time you go through a surgery, there's pain issues involved too.
Right, that's a really good question. And in the case of Karis, I think I mentioned that dog has already had 6 surgeries.
Yeah.
And so, but my understanding is that when this type of thing happens, like say, for example, with Cherished Canines accepting an animal, it's with the understanding that whether it's a Good Samaritan or whoever, that there's already a campaign or some things in place to where they feel that it's, how do I want to put it, that makes it feasible. And I know our Cans for Critters, we donated 100 towards Karis, and I know that there's been other individuals and people who have donated. And it's also my understanding that there's been a little bit of underwriting of the surgery costs through some anonymous donors.
Okay.
So I guess the short answer to that is that it's kind of a case by case, and it would be a case by case with the other animal organizations.
Okay, thank you. And those are always, it's such difficult circumstances and everything with it all. Like I said, after 6 surgeries, that's a lot of stress on a little puppy too. So, but thank you so much. I really do appreciate everything that the programs have done and the new friends that people have gotten from them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I see Mayor Pro Tem Gandara. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Yes, Jean, thank you so much for your work, not only in your volunteerism, but your passion for what you do and how you go above and beyond to collect data for us. I know that's all for us anyway, very important. And so I want to say thank you, but also very grateful to each and every one of the organizations that have anything to do with animals. Jean, in terms of my question is, in terms of the kind of clear out the August being clear the shelter, whatever, clear out the shelter, how do you as an animal organization assist in that process and the rest of the organizations?
Well, right now, I know the coalition has been pretty much through social media. Now, I've seen the cats meow, taking individual cats, and then of course, the banner, the header that they're running with it is saying, it's Clear the Shelters Month, and then they focus on an individual cat. All of the Ascmv Clear the Shelter notices the coalition. We've been trying to run that. I have 3 Facebook pages, so I put it on all 3 of them. But of course, there's a lot more we can do as a community, or as within the coalition and as a community. We can sponsor animals so that their adoptions are free. I mean, there are many ways we can do this. I know Foster Snyder, who volunteers here at the shelter. She basically showcases animals through social media. She takes pictures of them, and then she does a little write-up because she knows a lot about their behavior, because she's taken them out exercising and so on. I think that is very effective. And what we're trying to do as a coalition is we're trying to do things like elevate. So when I see something like that, I will write a comment like, wow, I think it is so wonderful what you're doing. People, come on, let's volunteer at the shelter, join their ranks. So those are just some of the ways, but I know there's a lot more we can do. But in this time of COVID, because we have constraints, maybe that helps us define a little bit more what we actually can do and that we can be doing now. But I encourage people to contact us. I think our phone number, we ran it on the second slide or so, but they can message us on our Facebook page too.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean. Thank you so much again. Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Is there any other comments from the board? Commissioner Allens? I don't see anything, hear anything. So, Ms. Gilbert, thank you for your update, and thank you. You're always patient on waiting towards the end of the meeting. So we appreciate you still coming on, and if we can maybe find a way as we move forward where maybe something's alternated, where you're more towards the front of the meeting. Maybe we can look into that. But thank you all to you and all the amazing organizations that are out there. So,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. We're now on the city and county ACO reports. Mary Lou, you want to go first, or? Yep, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'll go ahead and go first, if that's all right with Gino.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and let me see if I can get this screen up here. Can you all see this screen?
Yes. We see the slides, or at least I see the slides. I don't know if you've gone into slide view, but if you're going to go into slide view, you might need to hit that enable editing at the top.
Let me find it here now. There we go. Well, so let me go ahead and start with this. We'll start with the month of July, and we'll start with our call volume for the animal calls for services for July. And as we've been breaking them down, by districts 1 through District 6 which are geo districts. Those are the same districts that the Sheriff's Department uses. So our total calls that have been dispatched to the officers are 525 calls for animal control. They've had 87 self-initiated calls, 27 assist calls where they've assisted each other or assisted another agency, which gave us a total of 639 calls for the month of July. Then going into the animals picked up and impounded at the Animal Services Center, that was 174 animals. And again, they're broken down by districts. And I did add the districts, an explanation of the districts at the bottom this time to kind of give you an example of what those are, districts 1 through district 7, since they are different from our commissioner districts. And that'll give you an example of what we've picked up through the different districts, like owner surrender cats, dogs, strays. And so you can see what the most amount of animals that were picked up were, of course, stray dogs. And you can look at the different types of districts. So in your gray area here, you could see what district that was, which is District 3, and then go down to District 3 and look, which is the Oregon, White Sands, East Mesa, Butterfield area. Total animals picked up completely were 220 animals that was total picked up. So the other side was only the animals going into the Animal Services Center. This is the total number of animals picked up completely, were 221 animals, and then total giving us again by the districts completed right here. Return to owner in the field. So we scanned 198 animals, return to owner in the field, and I don't know why it did not, let me go back. It did not give me my successful return to owner in the field, which was, I believe, about 20. I don't have that on me now. It had the number on here. It was about 29 or so, somewhere in that area. And it had it on here. I don't know what happened to it. So I'm not sure what happened to that number. The bite calls, we had 9 bite calls to humans, and Out of those night and bite calls to humans, 3 of them were up to date on the rabies vaccinations. 3 of them were quarantined at the Animal Services Center. 1 was quarantined at a veterinary facility. 3 were home quarantined, and 2 of them were actual gone on arrival. So they were strays that were not to be found. And then owner or release for ownership. We had 5 animals that were released for ownership. 1 was too aggressive. We had 2 animals that they could no longer care for. They couldn't handle the dogs. 1 owner couldn't care for it because they were going to the hospital, and somebody else was moving and they couldn't keep the animal. And then our court cases for July, we had 8 animal control cases that went to court in July. Out of those 8 cases, we had 12 charges that included 52 hours of regular time and 28.1 hours of overtime. We had 8 cases that were dismissed for compliance, 3 continued cases, and 1 deferred. Now, I'll just say a lot of our cases are, some of them are getting continued because of the COVID issues. So all our court cases right now are all via telephonic court. Here's an explanation of some of the citations that were issued. We had some for restraint requirements, rabies vaccination requirements, population control, and multiple animal site permits. And the spay and neuter action program, we have not had any added reports right now. They're just trying to get back up and running. So we are trying to get that information. I do have added information on the courthold facility. We did have 9 additional animals go out with the Kelly Barker program that were out on a flight that went out to Portland. And so those animals got out of our facility and got adopted out. So that's the end of our report, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Board members, is there any questions for Mary Lou? I don't see anything. So,
All right.
Thank you. Gino. There you are. All right.
Good morning. How is everybody?
Wonderful, sir.
Good. I will try to share my screen now. Please let me know if it's... What happened there?
We can see your part, the slide.
You can see it?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Okay, let me go to the beginning.
In F5 or that way? Yeah.
There we go. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Gino Jimenez. I'm the supervisor for the city of Las Cruces Animal Control. I will present to you my July 2020 monthly report. So for the month of July, we responded to 451 calls for strays. Of those, 229 were GOA, gone on arrival. We were able to apprehend 240 of those animals. 184 of them were impounded at the Animal Service Center. Of those, 105 were dogs and 79 were cats. We were successful in field RTOing 38 animals, and we were unsuccessful in field RTOing 15. Those are also included in the numbers that went up to the Animal Service Center. So we had a total of 53 identifiable animals. Here is our 3-year comparison. As you can see, since COVID has hit, our reported strays have taken a tremendous dip down. And I honestly hope that this becomes a trend when we go back to normal, if there's ever going to be such a thing. But I hope that this will be our future as far as animal control is concerned, where we're getting less and less stray calls. Here's our 3-year comparison in our field RTOs. This is also a trend that I hope maintains, is because our field RTOs are staying pretty consistent. As long as our stray counts go down and our field RTOs go up, I think we're winning there. We're getting more animals back to the owners rather than taking them to the Animal Service Center. So here's my report on the reasons we were unable to field RTO. We had a total of 15, like I said in my previous slide. 6 of those were because there was no contact by phone or at the residence. And 9 of those were because the microchip was not updated or registered. Here's my report on the reasons for owner releasing animals. We had 1 that was turned over because it was sick. We had 1 that attacked the neighbor's dog, and this dog had been showing signs of aggression before the attack. 2 were for dogs that were attacking each other. The owner felt that he could no longer control the animals and felt that this was the best for him and the dogs. And we had 8 that were owner released because the owner could not care for. He did state that he had reached out to the welfare groups and that they were full, and that's understandable. I think all, like Jean said in her report, I think everybody's full right now. So it was our only option for when we get called in is to take them to the Animal Service Center. So here is a blown up screen of my stray maps. One of the things that you'll notice is that now it's a little bit more colorful. I was able to get the GIS department to include our council districts, and those are by colors now. And I will go into it and be a little bit more more detailed if I can share that one. For some reason, I cannot share my screen.
I think it might be, do you have more than one monitor? Or?
Yes. Can you see that one?
There, now I can see the map.
Very good. Sorry, it was on my other screen. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
So now I have a little bit more control, so I can zoom in on specific areas should one of you need that. But I will go a little bit closer. So again, the blue dots represent dogs that were called in as strays. The orange dots are cats, and the red dots are others. And that could be anything from a skunk to a squirrel to a goat to rabbits, anything other than a cat and a dog. I'm gonna start on the east mesa and kind of work my way into the south, but if anybody has any particular questions or need to look at a specific area, please let me know and I'll stop right there.
Gino, I do have a quick question, and Mr. Chair, if that's all right.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you. I'm looking at District 2, your blue, and you seem to have a bit of a, I think they're cats right on Milton.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm wondering, I know that I had some constituents that were having issues with cats in the same area, and so I'm just checking to see if that's this similar issue that's been going on.
On Milton itself, let me look.
Kent. It might just be on Kent there. Yeah.
Snoopy, yeah, Milton, it runs right here. If you can see my cursor, right at the very dead end of it is Kent. And on Kent, yes, we have got a lot of reports of cats in this area. Now, I would say for the month of July, you will only see 2 dots. We only impounded 2 animals so far that month. However, if I blow up my map and I go back to maybe May, this area is going to come up with 12 dots. So they have been hit hard in that area for stray cats.
Okay.
Would you like me to do that? I can.
Yes, please. And is there any like colony owners in the area? Do you know?
No, ma'am, there are not. Remember, as of January, feral cat colony permits were ceased because of the sunset clause, should say.
Okay.
So I was no longer able to, by ordinance, issue any of those community cat permits or feral cat colony permits. So I'm going to change the dates here. And you'll see, just by going back to May, how those dots increased tremendously. And if I zoom out a little more, there's another area within that district that there was a lot more. It's kind of easier for me to zoom out and then go back in. And just so that everybody's aware, this map is available on the CLC webpage. It's a read-only, but you have the same permissions or ability that I have right now to be able to zoom in on a particular address or a particular dot and look at what was impounded in that area. So let me go back.
And that's, if we can't find it right now, that's fine. I was just kind of checking in to see if we've been able to pick up any of those cats in the area and if we're still seeing consistent kind of complaints still.
Yes, ma'am. And this represents for cats is especially the ones that we have been able to impound.
Okay.
So the blue dots are for the stray dogs. Some may be GOA, some may be impounded. I would say that 90% of the orange dots are the ones that have been impounded.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Is there any other board members that want to take a look? Oh, Mayor Pro Tem, see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez. Thank you, Gino.
You're welcome.
I appreciate the work here. I'm always really impressed with, especially with this. It's really awesome to see, right? I mean, it's a good tool for us to have. Not so awesome that we're having all these stray animals all over town, right? But Gino, from your perspective, what are you all seeing related to the strays? Still, many go on that don't have a microchip or some sort of identification tag so that you're able to take the animals back to their owners. Are you seeing a majority of those and or I didn't see, and sorry, I ran to the restroom real quick. But if you said it, I'm so sorry I missed it. But like the reasons for, or the conditions that you found them in, because they're not there wasn't an identification, or I did hear that there was a sick animal kind of thing. But what are you seeing, and how that for me would be really helpful.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think your question has two parts, so let me answer one at a time.
Okay.
For the microchipping, one of the biggest issues that we're having, the reason we are not able to field RTO a lot of animals is because people aren't updating their information. So they may move, they may change their phone number, they may have given the dog away to somebody else, and that microchip information is never updated. So we can only go by what's on the database.
Sure.
So if it's not correct, we reach out by phone or we go by the residence, and first of all, nobody answers the phone. They say it's a wrong number. Okay. So we still have the address to go by. Then we go to the address and they say, oh, they've moved within the past few months.
Yeah.
So now we're at a dead end. So we have to take it somewhere where the animal is still going to be cared for, which is the animal service center. So that seems to be our biggest issue with that. Second part is that people are getting microchips, and we're very, very thankful for that. However, a lot of the microchip information isn't getting updated or isn't getting inputted. I don't know whose responsibility is that right now. That's one of the discussions that we're having in the task force, is to whose responsibility it is to actually input and update that information. Ultimately, in my opinion, it's ultimately the owner's responsibility. That's who should be inputting and updating that information as they get it. Or if they move, or if they change their phone number. The second part to your question is the owner releases. We have done our best that we possibly can to not take owner releases to the Animal Service Center. I know that it was a request from Clint that we only take in the animals that, well, let me back up. Initially, he asked us not to take in owner releases. We decided that we have an obligation to citizens for the public safety, and that we would only take in animals that posed a threat to the family or to a threat to public safety. For the most part, we have stuck to that. And our owner releases have gone down tremendously, with the exception of this month. You'll see in my slide that we had 8 that came in from one individual. And I had to make that hard decision whether according to him, he had already reached out to welfare groups to try to place them. He had run out of options. I made that hard decision to have my officer pick him up and take him to the Animal Service Center. But with the exception of that, take that 8 out, our number would have been at 5, which is tremendous. And all of our numbers are going tremendously down. We attributed a lot of it to COVID, of course. I hope that this becomes our normal after some of these restrictions of COVID have been lifted. But time will tell. Only time will tell.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Gino. I think all very important points, and those that, Clint, you should be considering as you move forward in terms of our media plan. I think those are places, right, that we should be focusing our attention in terms of messaging, to include on our Facebook, and not just like pictures or graphic, but maybe Wilson and Binkley can help you do videos that I think, which on a platform like social media platform gets bigger reach. And so I'm hoping that we have those kinds of messages clearly stated in that media campaign based on the data that we're hearing from Gino and Mary Lou. So that's all my comments. Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I don't know, is there anybody else? Any other questions for Officer Jimenez? Okay. Gino, I don't know, I don't know if you had anything else on your presentation?
Mr. Chair, no, sir, that I kind of got out of order because of my slide. My last slide is if anybody has any questions, but we're there. So that does it for me. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
All righty. On to shelter statistics, activities, aka the executive director's report. Mr. Thacker, you oh, there it is. Okay.
Good morning. All right, let's do this. So the current count of the Animal Center of Mesilla Valley totals is 384, and when you compare that to the 2019 744, we're looking really well, really good right now. We appreciate the continuing cooperation from the city and county, as Gino and Mary Lou both mentioned, of only or focusing on bringing in those animals that really need to come to the center. So that continues to be a huge help for us. Again, for those that are watching the first time, the reason why we have asked this is if staff here comes down with COVID, or we get individuals with COVID, then that will severely impact us, and our staff numbers will start to go down and decrease as we have people recovering from COVID. So keeping the numbers as low as possible allows us that precaution where we can keep the numbers down and still have room to care for them, or staff to care for them. As you can see from the intake as well, it continues to be, half of what it was in 2019 at this time. We're looking at 431 cats, and in 2019 and 2020 is 199. So a big difference there. And same thing with dogs, 359 compared to the 637 in 2019. In July, we only had 3 dogs come back, or 3 animals total, come back. Those reasons were aggressive with humans, one's aggressive with animals, and then some medical issues the owner had. I can no longer care for it. Here's some outcomes compared to 2020 and 2019. July was a really slow year with the slow month exception of rescues. Our rescue coordinators and all of our team actually here is doing an incredible job of getting these animals out to rescues so they can care for them longer and have positive outcomes. So 32 adoptions, 75 reclaims, 225 rescues, and then euthanasia, live release rate is 77.1% compared to the 78.1, so 1 whole percent. So we're hanging right in there with these lower numbers that we have. And it's important to note, remember that when you have a lower population, that one animal means a lot more because you're going off a percentage. So, if you have 1,000 and you do 1, it's different, and you euthanize 1 animal, it's different if you have 100 and do 1. Large percentage swing there. So appreciate all the work that our staff is doing. Our total visitors in July is 523, and compared again in July of 2019, 2,601. The huge difference here is back in 2019, we were counting everybody that came into the group. So mom brought her 4 kids, or dad brings the kids, so on. You would count all of those. But now we're doing everything by appointments, and we're only allowing 2 people in the lobby at one time. So those are significantly lower numbers, but it's a lot more pinpointed focus on who's actually doing the adoptions coming in. So that 523. And that's all I have. I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Thacker, Mayor Pro Tem? You're on mute.
There we go. Sorry. Thank you. Thanks, Clint, for your presentation. I'm grateful to your staff and all the work, especially now. Wanting to see, do you happen to have the numbers for the Facebook? Like the views and those kinds of things, and those that are looking at video, I would think you should be incorporating that, because I think that's super important. Just because of, I understand the issues that we have with COVID and the limitations in terms of the numbers of folks that are allowed to be in the center, but I think it's a way by which, you're actually getting visits, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Not only Facebook, but also hits on our website too.
Yeah.
Because all the people have to find and see what animal they want before they can come into the center. So yeah, that's a really good idea. We will get those numbers.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You'll see probably mine like 5 to 8 times I've been on the website looking at your animals, right? Because I'm considering adopting. It just has to be the right animal. So hint, I'm looking for a German Shepherd, maybe a puppy. So God, I said that out loud, didn't I? So now you're going to hold me to it.
Yeah, you said that out loud with all the rescue groups and everybody that's listening. They're on their phones right now.
Yeah. So anyhow, all right. Yeah. Thanks again to all of you. I know how hard you're working and how difficult it is, and staff kind of wanting things to go back to normal, if you will. And I know how challenging that is. So I appreciate the presentation.
So one update I do have for the board, and if I can interject here, is starting September 6th, we are going back to our full schedule instead of having 2 teams, A and a B schedule. The reason why is there's 3 reasons. One is the population at the center is getting to the point that we are unable to keep up with half of the staff. Where the veterinarian and I, and also the managers, are concerned about the quality of care that the animals are getting. So bringing everybody back in will essentially double the amount of people that are here caring for the animals. So that's one reason. The second reason is there was a lot of crossover that was happening anyways, whether it be by mistake or on purpose. By on purpose, I mean, like if a staff member is fostering, somebody on team A is fostering an animal, well, they come in at a time when team B is working to get shots and vaccines for that animal. There's that automatic cross-contamination. Also, I would come in when requisitions need to be approved or stuff need to be signed in or signed. I would have to come in. And even though I just stayed at my desk and Bernice had those orders ready, there was already that cross that was happening. And then the third reason was financially. We had scheduled people between 26 to 30 hours, so they would not have the exposure to individuals coming into the center as long. But yeah, with the extraordinary leave policy that we adopted, we were still paying them for 40 hours. So financially, it was not sustainable for us to continue to do that. So those reasons, on September 6th, we will be going back to full hours. And what does that mean for us? Well, it means that our surgery program, if you remember, we were having issues of getting everybody on the surgical team back into the surgical suites because some were on A and some were on B team. So our surgical Dr. Haddon has been doing 20 to 30 adoption or 20 to 30 surgeries on Wednesday. I believe it was Tuesday and Wednesday. She'll now be able to keep that up and going for the Tuesday through Tuesday through Friday, and we'll also be able to start doing more surgeries for the foster to adopt, which we are significantly behind because of COVID, the stop that we had to do with the governor mandate. So we're excited for those changes that are coming. We hope that it'll continue to improve and to bring those backlog surgeries back up to date. So you're on mute, Commissioner. You're still on mute, Commissioner.
Thanks. I got my laptop keyboard and my regular keyboard. Apparently, my laptop keyboard doesn't work. Are there any other questions for Mr. Thacker? I'll add. I think back. I think one of the numbers for the euthanasia rate, or in it, and I think what's one of the things that when we look at is, although it's almost the same as last year, I think it was at 77%. Well, not the euthanasia rate, excuse me. But because of the numbers and the fewer amount that we're bringing in, and I think a lot of what I've seen, at least from the daily emails, the daily reports that we've had, is that a lot of the animals that some of them that are coming in are those that are injured or ill or things like that. And so, I think, when I look at that number, I'm a little, I don't want to say discouraged. It's just frustrating because I think, we're doing all the, you're doing all the right things. You had the huge number of animals that were taken by partners, by the, and by the rescues. And so when I see that, I know it's at the same level, or at least the percentage was at the same level, but I know it seems like because we're getting less, it doesn't take much to lower our number of, for in terms of the metrics. So I just wanted to point that out. And I also wanted to say thank you to Mayor Pro Tem Gandara for bringing up the social media data, because I think that type of metric will be interesting, especially with the conversation we had with the media campaign and that going forward. And I'd be kind of curious to see, do we see any, once that gets signed and we start implementing these ads and so on, do you see any uptick in traffic on either the Facebook page or the site? So, but that's all I had. So, thank you, Mr. Thacker. We'll move on to committee reports. So we got, we'll start with the finance.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Oh, yes, go ahead, sorry.
Councilor Betas-Duby and myself had some.
Yeah, I apologize. I see him now. Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll yield to Councilor Betas-Duby. She was first.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair. And thank you, Clint, for that. Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez, for bringing up the euthanasia issue. I'm wondering if we can see maybe next month, kind of like a subsector of how many of the animals were in that sick, ill category. And then if they weren't included, what that rate would be as well. So kind of like two different numbers. So if we pulled out the numbers for euthanasia that were the sick and ill category, or I guess injured, sick and injured, that had to be put down, sorry. And then what that rate would be afterwards too.
Okay, thank you. So just to confirm, you want to know the number of euthanasias that were euthanized because they were sick and injured?
Yes.
Okay, and then you want to know the number or the percentage of what that would be with those taken out, the total percentage?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yes, we'll have that.
Thank you. And then, sorry, I had one more question, but I'm going to yield to Councilor Gandara.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was, Councilor Betas-Duby, I was thinking along the same lines of kind of pulling out the numbers of the sick and injured, I think are important. And then I see, I don't, ones where, are we also taking note of those euthanasias and like the aggressive animals? Did you have that and I just missed it? Clint?
Did we have aggressive animals that were euthanized?
No, the numbers. Did you show the numbers related to euthanasia and aggression?
We had, I think you're referring to the slide of, let's share this really quick. I think you're referring to this slide. So we had 3 dogs returned aggressive with other animals, aggressive with humans, and owner medical issues were the reasons given.
Yeah, yeah. Those are the ones that return back to the center, but I'm talking about along the lines of the euthanasia conversation. I think it's important to add a slide that sort of identifies each one of those. And why do you have that? Yeah, I like to see that. I think those are all really important because it speaks in some respects to around the aggressive dogs and sitting at the center for so long, right? And not getting the socialization or you know, because I think often I remember you saying, Clint, that if we are able to walk the dogs and they get socialization, and that's why fostering is so important, right? That you know, what you're seeing or what others are seeing around aggression, you're not seeing, kind of thing. And so you and I think that's super important that the animals get the socialization, the care, that, like you've talked about, the quality of care. And so I'd like to see those numbers because maybe we can, you know, maybe we just have to tweak some things, or maybe our media campaign needs to speak to, you know, those kinds of things I think are important, that if we're seeing animals that are coming in that are sick, that's having to do with care, right? In some respects, and so, or maybe in all of it. I don't know. I'm not a veterinarian, but I think those are important issues that the public needs to be aware of, right? I think a lot of education and awareness of what our role and responsibilities are as a pet owner. And I just think there's just not a lack of awareness, and maybe there's some neglect as well. And so I just like to see those, and I know as hard as you all are working in terms of increasing that live release rate, it is frustrating to see those numbers. But you know, it is what it is. But maybe we can help it in that by providing a different kind of awareness and such. Second, and finally, really is I understand your concern and the decision to bring people back. I just want to make sure that it's in accordance to the governor's orders, A. B, that you have some safety measures in place around people not congregating, using their masks, you know, those kinds of things. For me, and I understand and have appreciated the extraordinary measures and the pay that the city and you, that your agency, your entity has given our staff. But I'm also, for me, first and foremost, is safety. Safety is to me bottom line. And I just want to make sure that all those things are in place before our staff is coming back at full force.
Yeah, in the email I sent out, I was very specific about no congregating. We are getting the number from the fire department of what our occupancy number could be in our main lobby. So we're waiting to hear back from them. But everybody's required to wear masks when they're not in their own personal work area, and that includes like in their kennel. And they're not allowed to be congregating either. So those were all very clear in the email, and they will be followed up with. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And if they have a personal workspace that is shared amongst 2 or 3, my recommendation would be is to wear the mask and to make sure that they wear it properly, you know, like on the nose and the mouth, and making sure they're washing hands, that you have washing stations and sanitizer across the building, just to sort of help with those kinds of things. Because the minute someone tests positive, you guys are down and are going to and that's not good. So I'm a little nervous. I want you to know I'm a little nervous about people coming 100% back. But I just, again, want to make sure that it's in accordance to the governor's orders, and that that all the precautions are taking place and everybody understands their role and responsibility. Thank
Yeah,
you.
before we made the decision, I also requested or got on Facebook, the course I was going through with Best Friends Executive Leadership Certification. That has been a wealth of knowledge because it has directors from all across the country that are in it. So I've asked that of them, and they're seeing the same thing. Our summertime uptick in numbers, we've got to have staff to do it. So we've gotten the protocols from them, what they're doing. When somebody tests positive, we got protocols in place for mask wearing, things like that. So it's not just us going through this; it's a lot of other places throughout the country that are having to change.
Sure, we have to pivot and be flexible enough to be able to do all of that at any given time. So I'm glad you all are thinking about that. And the other thing that I'll recommend publicly that maybe folks in the animal world are not aware is the Las Cruces Safe Promise. That's something that we are encouraging our businesses, individual people, citizenry living in Las Cruces to take the Las Cruces Safe Promise. You can find that on our website, Clint, and there's some steps taken for businesses. You'll get a logo, a decal, I guess, to put on from the state level. So it's in conjunction with the state, but we also have the Las Cruces Safe Promise. And I know that staff is working on getting decals that you can place on your windows, because when you start inviting people back in, right, you want people to know and gain confidence that you are following every precaution and best practice that's out there related to COVID. And that sort of signifies when you go through that certification process, if you will. So I'm recommending that you look into that and do it. I think it's super important.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilor Betasuve.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for those comments. Clint, what is the kind of plan should you guys have a positive case and you have to shut down? Do you have, for staffing and stuff, since animal care, is 24/7, will you be working with like the temp agencies after a thorough sanitization is done? Or how will you be staffing that to make sure that there's no gaps in care?
That's a very good question. Management team has come up with the idea of to keep it as minimal as possible, but still be effective. So what the plan is when an individual tests positive for COVID, we backtrack and see who has had immediate contact or prolonged contact with that individual. We have that individual placed on quarantine leave and tested immediately as soon as possible. And they are, both parties, of course, or all parties involved, are to do that until they get a negative result on their test. Then they can come back. In the meantime, the area where the animal or the individual is to be cleaned. That will be done by our staff wearing the corrective PPE. And then basically just watched. And it's, like I said, it's going to happen. We don't have the funds to bring in people to test immediately and get everybody tested, and we cannot shut down. That's not an option. So it isn't the best way to go about doing it, but it's something that needs to happen that way.
I definitely would encourage, and you probably already have, just making sure that resources are available for that correct PPE, if or when needed. Hopefully never, but that supply is there, and then it's in the thought process. And obviously, health and safety of the employees as well. If there are anyone that has those pre-existing conditions or extra issues that they have to consider when making these decisions, just to have really good conversations with all the staff about that. And thank you. That's all I have, but thank you, Clint.
Thank you, Councilor. See, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, you have your hand up? Okay, no, very good. If there's no other comment, I don't want to move on to make sure we're good. If there's no other comment, I think we'll move on to committee reports. We'll move on with the Finance Committee. Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. My name is Josh Saffel, and on behalf of the Finance Department of the City of Las Cruces, I would like to present the financial statements as of July 31st, 2020. These are, of course, unaudited. If we look here, our first page, that's our statement of net position. We can see that in the general fund, we have cash of $453,000, receivables of $275,905. We have total liabilities of $61,854 and revenue collected in advance of $51,750, which leaves us an unassigned fund balance in the general fund of $615,902. In the capital projects fund, we see cash of $31,565 and of course a restricted fund balance of $31,565 with $254,641,000 in capital assets in the capital asset fund. Moving on to our next page, this is our statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. We see total revenues in the general fund are $561,475. Total expenditures are $123,314. So we had a net income for the period of $438,161. In the capital projects fund, we had total revenue of $13,344 and expenditures of $1,767. So there was a positive change in the capital projects fund of $11,577. Looking at our budget to actual, we see that the total revenue is at 19.8% of budget. Our budget parameter is 8.33%. The reason why we see that revenue percentage being so high is because, of course, the Doña Ana County and City of Las Cruces both put up 22% of their funding up front in order to help with cash flow. So we see that that's reflected in that 19.8% of revenue. Total expenditures are at 4.3%. So we see that we're slightly under our what we might expect to see for expenditures for the period. Looking at our revenues versus expenditures graph, this is a trend graph. As this is the first month of the year, we only see the first two dots there. So we see that revenue exceeds expense by quite a bit, but we'll start to see that trend fill out in future months. Looking at our percent of total expenditures, we see that the majority of expenditures are taken up by personnel at 76%. Insurance and services come in next at 11%, and all other categories of expenditure are at 1% or less. That is all I have for the financial statements. Are there any questions?
Do we have any questions on the financial report? Mayor Pro Tem Ganda.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. I'm so happy to see you. Welcome back. Good to see you. Can you turn the PowerPoint to slide 2, please? Maybe I've just woken up, but tell me, when you say liabilities, what does that consist of?
That's usually like accounts payable. It's we've incurred an expense, but we haven't quite paid it out yet.
Incurred an expense. Okay, so that means, like, can you give me an example?
Trying to think of a good one. Basically, if we've received a bill, so we know that we have the expenditure, we've recorded the expenditure, but payment itself has not been made on it yet.
Taken
So
out.
we still owe that money out.
Got it. Okay, got it. And is that like a combination of maybe several things that have happened, several expenses that just haven't been paid out yet?
The majority of that is actually accrued payroll liabilities. So that reflects on the payroll and payments that we need to make out for that, such as taxes and benefits and other things.
Got it. Got it. Okay, that's all. I just wanted to make sure. I thought I understood it, but you've helped me further understand. So thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions or comments? I don't see anything on, no one else's hand is up. Josh, I'll say I always like coming out of the first month of the year where revenues are the difference between revenues and expenditures is quite big. So, but we appreciate your update. So, thank you, sir. Moving on, the executive committee. We had a very short meeting. It was just myself and Mr. Thacker, and we only talked about a few items. I think one was, and this might be in Mayor Pro Tem your update for the facilities. I know we had discussed the HVAC project and that coming to completion. So I'll leave it there so I don't take up any of your updates. The only other thing that we mentioned, and this is...
Go for it. You can take it. That's about all I would say. I mean, I had a virtual meeting with him, but go if you want.
No, sure. The note that I had was that when the walkthrough was performed, there were 3 items that were noted, but the vendor was already working on it. And so, but that's going to be nice, big project to finally get completed there. And then the only other item that I had of note was, and this is just for the board, this is something in terms of any of these resolutions that we just passed that will need our signatures. I know Clint had expressed concerns around making sure he got all of our signatures. So what it sounds like is, and I don't know if it was already happening like this, but just a reminder. So what we're going to be doing is he's going to be working with our board members from the city and bring it there. I assume to City Hall for your signatures, and then he'll bring it over to the county for the commissioners to sign, and then then we'll get it recorded. But that was just, we were trying to get some clarity and hopefully have that process be a little smoother, so that way we get all the signatures in a timely manner. Otherwise, I think that's all I had noted from our executive committee.
Vice Chair, I have a question on that last item. Do they know who will be notifying us that those documents have been received at the city? Because once I'm notified, then I'll be able to get in as soon as possible for that.
We take it to the city manager's office. So the city manager's office will be contacting you, letting you know it's there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All righty, now on to facilities. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sanchez. Yes, Clint and Commissioner Ellens met the first Thursday of the month. It was virtual. We had a virtual tour, so we were able to see into, thankfully, Clint has the tools to be able to do that. So we were able to see the facility being cleaned, and I was able to take a look at the cat room and the dogs and have a good conversation in the front area with the staff there. And so we were able to, I think, get a bird's eye view of what's happening there. Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez, for the update on the HVAC system. It's at that point, I think when we met, it was done, and there were some items that needed to to be worked on. And obviously, Clint is much more up to speed about what those items are. Clint, I don't know why I think there was a leak of some sort. Am I making that up? A window. There was a window that needed some correction, if you will. And so it sounded like that was the responsibility of the city, and they were working towards that. Do you have an update further, Clint, about those items?
Yeah, so it's two parts. The window pane, they're not broken, but the seal inside of it is broken. So that's allowing moisture to come inside. And it's a double paned window. So in the middle, there is where the moisture is. We do have a quote to get that fixed. However, when they came out to do the quote, they noticed that the metal frame that the window sits in is rusted through on one side because of all the water and everything that we use and the age of the building. So we are getting a quote to get that whole frame replaced with the window. So it's being taken care of.
Good. Clint, do you have any updates on the GeoBond and where we're at related to design and those kinds of things?
Yeah, just last week we had our 100% completion of the plans meeting. We offered up some changes that needed to take place, especially with the bid lots of what it is. And for those that are watching that don't know, when a building is scheduled for build, we kind of have this big high-level dream that we like to have, and they may or may not say, okay, let's design it, and then we'll put it in what's called bid lots. And so then the contractor can come in and say, well, this much is going to be, this area you specified is this much, and this area you specified is this much. And so then that amount comes back to us, and we said, well, we can't afford this bid lot, and that's kind of a dream to have this portion. So let's do this bid lot and this bid lot. So we were able to straighten out those bid lots. We moved just the reception area needed to be a little bit bigger. An office needed to be a little bit bigger. So we're looking at those, and they should be completed by the end of the month here in the next few days. We'll get those back, and hopefully we'll be out to bid in September. And then, fingers crossed, construction will start in December. So it's all still timeline.
That's good to know. Thank you, Clint. And that's all I have, Vice Chair Sanchez. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for the on facilities? I see none. Clint and Bernice, public input. Now, and I'll say I made an error in that when we went to action items, I forgot to ask, was there any public input on any of the action items? So I'll begin with that. Clint, was there any input on particularly to the action items?
No input on the action items directly, no, but we do have one public input that would like to be said.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that, like I said, if there was on the action items, I was going to have you read that and then see if it was going to, if depending on what the input was, if we wanted to reconsider a vote. But since there's not, like I said, I apologize that I missed that. But please go ahead with the public input.
This is from Gary, one of our volunteers. Public input, he states, is why is animal control still trapping chipped and clipped feral cats and bringing them to the shelter? Is it to get numbers or lack of education? That's what he says. I don't know if you want me to direct that or not, or more of a animal control question, but from what I know is they're still bringing them because the ordinance says to still bring them in. So, but I could probably defer more of an answer to Gino and Mary Lou if they would like to at all.
And Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Gino.
Animal control, city animal control has suspended our trapping program. We are not trapping or loaning out any of our traps. We are still responding to citizens who have their own traps and are trapping cats. We have, when we respond to those calls, we are asking them not to trap because of the concerns of Clint and his staff and having people come in and possibly exposing his staff to COVID. We don't know. I mean, who has it and who doesn't. So we're asking them not to trap anymore, but we are not actively trapping anything unless it's for an emergency situation, such as a bite, maybe something inside the home that somehow got into the home and it becomes a health issue there. But animal control is not trapping cats ourselves.
Thank you, Gino. Mary Lou, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add on that.
I can speak for us. We're pretty much in the same ballpark as Gino. We are not trapping cats just for the sake of trapping cats either. Only cats that pose an immediate threat. Maybe a cat that's bit somebody and we have to trap it because we need to quarantine that cat. That's the only time we were trapping cat. We are not loaning out traps. Again, only for emergencies will we loan out a trap. We will not sit in an area and just trap either. So we haven't done that for years, actually. So just to loan out traps for an individual, that hasn't happened. Again, just for emergency purposes only will we trap a cat. Now, will we respond to somebody who's got a cat in a trap because they've trapped it for themselves for whatever various reasons? Those are other issues, again, like Gino was talking about. We're pretty much in the same boat as Gino on that.
Very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. So hopefully that at least provides some clarity or some understanding of why we're trapping the cats. So.
Right.
Okay. If there's no other public input, we'll move on now to chair and board comments. I right now I don't have anything to add other than I think you all are doing an amazing job there, Clint, and I'd be curious to hear as we move forward into the full operations or bringing the operations kind of back up with the full team. If you've had, what you learned, what you've seen, how we continue on with, as Mayor Pro Tem Gondara had mentioned, is making sure you're meeting all the Department of Health guidelines for this. But like I said, I don't have anything else. I don't know if any other board member has anything to add or any comments. Commissioner Ellens, please go ahead.
Clint, where do we stand on the construction of the new Animal Service Center?
Construction is moving forward. We hope to be in place or to have construction started by December.
And how long will it take to complete?
It will be 1 year. Our completion date we have is December 2021.
Okay.
And we hope to be in the new building by January 2022.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Ellens. Is there anything else? Councilor Beitastuvi, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to staff, both of our codes departments for city and county. And then thank you as well, Commissioner, for chairing this today. And we look forward to Councilwoman Yvonne Flores and a safe return for her.
Well, thank you for that, Councilor. Let's see. I don't see anything else. No one's hands up. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move on. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Gondara.
Very good. Thank you. It is 11:05 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Yeah.